And here we go. How are we getting on? So today we're joined by Cherami Leigh. Cherami, how about you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Cherami Leigh. I'm an actor and a voice actor. I guess most recently people know me as the voice of Female V in Cyberpunk 2077.
It's a good game, so it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it had its ups and downs. Ups, of course, being yourself and Gavin.
Well,
Uh,
thank you.
Downs was just kind of the bugs, but overall it was a good game.
I'm glad
Um,
you enjoyed it.
how'd you book the game?
Um, wow, it was just a regular audition. I guess the unusual part about the audition was that it was in person. Usually, when we audition for VO, we'll just record it somewhere at home. But this time, I got to go into studio. I knew nothing about the character, not at all what I was walking into. And I did actually. It was a scene with Ripper Doc, and I loved the character, loved the scene, loved how grounded it was. And I remember I went home and started doing my obsessive detective work, which is the worst thing an actor can do, where you like scour the internet going, what did I just audition for? And I kept getting pulled back to Cyberpunk 2077. And I thought, there's no way that I just auditioned for that game. There's no way. So I assumed I was surely wrong. And then a couple weeks afterwards, they asked me if I would come in to voice the demo, and I was elated. But I thought, well, I'm surely not working on Cyberpunk 2077. And I remember in the session, they said, so do you know what this is for? And I said, well, it feels very much like Cyberpunk 2077, but obviously it's not that. And they're like, no, it is that. And I got terrified. So we did the first demo, and then a year went by and I hadn't heard anything. And I kind of went the whole recording process waiting for them to say, so we now have this A-lister who's going to be taking over. Thank you for your service. And then a year later, they contacted me, had me do the second demo. And then at the end of the second demo, they said, so we'll see you in a couple months for the main game recording. But yeah, it just was a simple audition with a quick scene, and I got to read it twice, and it ended up turning into Cyberpunk 2077, which was incredible.
I'm glad to hear it worked out for you. You weren't replaced. But
I
yeah,
know. I was terrified. And I felt so, I didn't get to meet Gavin at all while we were recording. I think the first time we got to meet virtually was the day the game launched. We had a panel together. But when he and I were talking during the panel, he was like, I thought I was getting fired. I was like, oh, that is where RVs come together. That is the uniting factor. We were terrified we were going to lose our job.
that's kind of scary. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I'd imagine with Keanu Reeves being in it, you were just sitting there like, okay, who is my role now?
Yeah. Well, when I'm I we have to sign so many NDAs, so no one in my family knew what I was working on. And I remember I was coming back from a convention, and they had announced that Keanu was going to be in the game, and I remember thinking, "Oh, this is it. This is who's playing my role now." And my husband actually told me, "Hey, I know you're a huge fan of Keanu Reeves. He's going to be in a video game." And I was like, oh, that is amazing. And I looked up what it was. I was like, man, no, I'm not going to be able to be in this video game, but it worked out. I got to still work on the game and work with someone who I'm a huge fan of. So that was really cool.
That sounds pretty awesome, and I'm amazed. I'm amazed by voice actors as a whole, but specifically the fact these can hold secrets so well. Like he's need to be working in the FBI, CIA, something like that.
I'm actually terrible at keeping secrets. Maybe it's because I have to keep secrets for my job. Every single person in my family and all of my friends know what they're getting for any holiday, birthday, Christmas, or anything the second that I get it. So I guess I can keep really serious secrets well, but just frivolous secrets, I can't keep them.
Yeah, is it worth telling a secret if you could lose the gig?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. And what was it like working in the same game as Keanu? Did you guys meet? Did you get to talk to the guy at all?
No, I never got to meet him. I had one brief moment where I was pulling up to the studio, um, and I saw there was a gentleman getting on a motorcycle, and I remember like pulling up to the studio going, "That is the coolest person alive." And he like flipped his head back to put his helmet on. I was like, "Man, that person is just epitomizes cool." And then when he flipped his head back, I saw that it was Keanu, and I froze, and I was like, just park the car. Don't get out of the car. I could have gone up and said, hi, I'm so excited to be working on this game with you, but I did not. And I walked into the studio shortly after, and they said, so did you see Keanu? Did you see anything? I was like, no, he rode off into the sunset as only Keanu can. And they said, you should have talked to him. I was like, what would I say? They were like, you have a lot in common. You guys have been working on the same project for the last few months. But no, I was not brave enough to talk to him. Maybe one day I'll get to meet him.
Hopefully, you're hoping.
We all have that same wish. I mean, it's definitely on my bucket list is to
Right?
see the guy in real life.
Just to see him, not even talk to him. Just,
I mean, if
see
I'm
him.
on this, I know he gets to train a lot, so I'm thinking
Seeing him was incredible. Like I got very starstruck and frozen in place. He's just so cool.
I'd say it's intimidating nearly. I've seen him as John Wick too much.
Yeah.
You know?
You never know what's going to happen. But from what I heard, he is like the nicest guy. And from interactions that I had heard people at the studio say, I'm like, man, he would be so cool. Really, really nice. But when I saw him again, yeah, he's an action superstar. You're just like kind of taken aback.
It is really weird though that you guys didn't get to work together, especially because everything he says is directed at you.
Yeah.
So would it not be beneficial to have you guys in the same boot at least for a day or something?
They would play. Well, I guess it depended. At certain points of the game, Gavin would record V's dialogue first, and then other parts of the game I would record, and we would match back and forth. And then Keanu would have one of us to play off of, and then sometimes I don't think this happened too many times, but there were moments where he was recorded first, and then I would get to act off of his voice. So it just depended on where we were in the recording schedule.
I'd say that was pretty hectic because there's so many different things you could say.
So many different things,
game.
and they were constantly writing new material and making changes and trying to get. I mean, there's so much content in the game, and it seemed like we were always getting new content all the time, more stories, more side quests, more mini quests, which was incredible. It was so fun getting to walk into the booth and say, like, what adventures are we going on today? But there was so much content. I don't know how the writers did it.
Yeah, because a complaint with a lot of games that come out recently, like the likes of Black Ops Cold War, Resident Evil 8, is that they were too short. But when it came to Cyberpunk, it just hit the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. But if you didn't get to meet him, did you do any mocap or was it just voice only?
No, for me, and I think for Gavin as well, but I'm not sure. But for me, I know I just did VO because there's not really too much facial capture, motion capture for V, since V is your perspective.
Yeah.
And I believe they did the motion capture in a different. I think there was some stuff done in the US, but I think a lot of it was done in a different location.
Okay.
Yeah. I still find that quite weird.
Yeah. It's different for every project. When I was talking to the team on The Last of Us, so many of them did mocap, and then a few of us did no mocap. And then when I worked on Horizon Zero Dawn, we did mocap and we did sessions in the studio separately. And then when I did Call of Duty World War II, we did like performance capture in the booth. So a lot of my motion capture stuff was there. And then we had a separate session just for likeness capture, which was very interesting. So it varies. You never know what you're going to be walking into each day.
Yeah, especially with the amount of work you've done. Like what, there's like 300 and something acting credits on your IMDb.
Because I don't know how that works, if they count like episodic television or they count each episode individually, or if it's just different projects. But I've been very, very fortunate working since I was 5 years old, gotten to do a variety of things. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. People continue to want to work with me and are so kind and teaching me new things. I was just doing a session earlier today, which is something I haven't gotten to do before. And I was so nervous. And the director and the producer were so kind and like walking me through. And it was such a fun experience.
And did you get to do this from home, or were you in a boot?
Yeah, today is working from home. So much of the last year and a half has been from home, with like a couple exceptions. We're starting to kind of go back out into studios specifically for motion capture, facial capture, that kind of stuff. It's so much easier to do that in studio, but I have done motion capture where I have to put the rig on myself and I have to take the little tiny screwdriver, and you're realizing how do I not know how to do this? I have no depth perception. So that's been an adventure, and I'll be so excited when a professional can do that for me. But I'm really glad I had the opportunity to learn, and again, that they were so patient and helping me know how to fix the rig and all those other pieces.
You said you started when you were 5?
Yeah.
Wow. Did your parents help you get into that, or?
No, solo.
My parents actually wanted to keep me out of it. They were trying to dissuade me from doing this. My mom did commercials very, very briefly. I think she said she ended up doing one commercial and did about 5 auditions. And her experience was they would line up all of these children, these child actors, and say like, you get the job, the rest of you go home. And my mom felt like that it was just demoralizing, and it really broke her spirit. And so she didn't want me to do that. And she's like, this business is so hard. It's really difficult for kids. And she's a dance teacher. So I had told her, I think when I was 4 years old, I was watching an episode of Barney. And it was a show that we had here with a giant purple dinosaur. And one of my mom's students, that she taught dance to, was one of the kids on the show. And so I saw that was attainable. Like I knew Pia, and Pia was also on Barney, so I could be on Barney. So I told my mom that was my goal and my dream, to be on Barney. So she put me in acting classes with kids way older than me. So it would be super hard. And I would say, this is not worth it. I don't want to do it anymore. And I would quit. And that backfired. I loved it. And then she took me to an open call for Miracle on 34th Street, the remake. And we were there all day. I had to memorize a monologue and then kept auditioning all day, going into different rooms. And she's like, are you tired? This is really hard. Do you want to go home? And I said, no, I love this. I want to do this all the time. And so my parents took me to an agent, hoping that the agent would be like, nope, she's terrible. And the agent was like, no, she seems really excited. We'll work with her. And I think it was a couple years before my mom realized, oh, she's not getting out of this. But my parents were very, very supportive and very kind. They just knew that this business is awful and it's really, really hard. And they didn't want their child to have to go through that. I think really I was talking to a friend of mine who is an actor and also a parent now, and he said, you want to avoid watching your child cry and having them being told, no, they're not right. They're going to cry. So why would you want them to experience that when they're going to cry and be in pain, and that's going to affect you? You just want to minimize that as much as possible. So, but yeah, no, ultimately my parents, they've always been on my team. They've been incredibly supportive. I would not have been able to work in this business without my grandparents and my parents taking me to auditions, but they were not thrilled in the beginning with my choice of career.
And did you ever end up on Barney, or?
I didn't. So I ended up working on a project with a few members of the production team of Barney and a couple of the other actors that were my co-stars on that project. They were like, you'd be great on Barney. We could all work together. And I was like, this will be so exciting. And so I know it was I think my 9th birthday, and the director pulled me aside. He was like, I want to talk to you. And I was like, this is the moment. He's going to tell me they're going to put me on Barney. And he said, I hear you want to work on Barney, and I don't think that is the best path for your career. I think the way that your career is going to go, Barney would ruin that path. So I think you are going a different direction. And I remember being like, okay, oh yeah, no, I'll put on a brave face. I get it. I understand. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll never know what would have, if there would have been a change in my career. I'm pretty happy with the way things turned out, and I feel very, very fortunate to be working and to have been able to consistently work my whole life. But yeah, no, Barney eluded me, and maybe one day they'll bring Barney back, and I can direct an episode or do something that would be pretty cool.
That is like the first time I've ever heard Barney and ruin your career in the same sentence. So out of context. It would like
Yeah,
Barney.
I don't know
like,
what it was
Barney
about
ruined
me.
my career.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about me and my just like energy as a person that they're like, I don't know if she's cut out for Barney. Maybe they just sensed the V Cyberpunk quality, and they're like, we don't know if Cyberpunk and Barney go in the same sentence. So who knows?
I mean, I can see a crossover. Absolutely.
It'd be great.
What I love about the Cyberpunk community is there's probably a mod of that somewhere. You know, like some kind of side character or something. A villain.
I definitely have a T-shirt that says it's the Jurassic Park logo with Barney's face in the middle, because I'm also a huge Jurassic Park fan, so I had to do that crossover for myself. So why not a Cyberpunk one?
Yeah, I could definitely see a Jurassic Park like Barney crossover in the future, even as like a comedy skit or something. But
yeah,
I can definitely see that happening. No,
I'm
maybe something funnier than SNL, but like
it'd be pretty awful if Barney was stuck in your head instead of Johnny Silverhand.
That would just. Oh my god, that's terrifying.
That would mentally destroy people.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves with a metal arm, or this Barney the dinosaur who's like 6 foot something.
Oh, it would definitely be a completely different experience, that's for sure.
So you're a big Jurassic Park fan, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
We had on the guy that inspired Jurassic Park.
What?
Jack Horner.
Oh, cool.
So he's the scientific advisor on it as well, but he also inspired like Alan Grant, like the main character of it.
That's incredible.
He's still trying to make dinosaurs. You know how far he's gotten?
I'm terrified to know, but I'm also very excited.
He's gotten to a point with like chickens, because birds are dinosaurs.
Yeah, sure.
So he can give them a snout like a lizard. He can give them teeth, but not like enamel teeth like us.
Okay.
He can make them walk like a dinosaur. He can give them hands, proper claws like. But then he can't give them a tail. That's the big problem. Can't give them a tail. Because no birds have tails.
That's true. But I'm willing to make an exception if we can have dinosaurs in this time.
There we go. Yeah.
After the past year, what we as a collective planet went through, if we get dinosaurs as a result of that, I think that might be an okay apology.
I can live with that.
The universe.
I think we're set to get aliens in a couple of days, right?
Aliens, dinosaurs, I'm all about
the
it.
The whole shebang, Barney.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Keep zombies out.
Ignore that one.
Yeah.
Well, you did Last of Us. You did the second one, didn't you?
Yeah, the Last of Us, the final season video game, which was really fun.
Yeah, it's
it was
controversial.
That game is so heartbreaking.
So controversial for some reason.
Yeah.
Same with Cyberpunk, because there was a lot of controversy between the fans for both games. Like Cyberpunk fans, I mean, all the bugs and stuff, that I can understand that, but The Last of Us just got a lot of hate for. I guess didn't they have to play as a villain for a long time in it?
Oh yeah, but it was unique storytelling, because you take away everyone's favorite character, now you try and make them see from the point of view of the person who just killed that character.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
It's what I loved about working on The Last of Us. First of all, the production team was wonderful, and because I played one of the militia, so you'll encounter me and I get to die a million different ways. So we recorded a number of different sessions, and they know when we're recording the game how vocally stressful that is, and they want it to be vocally stressful and for it to sound just awful and throat ripping, gut wrenching, all of the above. So they were really, really kind, and they actually let us record with another actor. So while we're working on our session, we have mandatory vocal rest because we're getting to take a break while the other person is working, and they could take a break while we're working. And I feel so very fortunate. I got to be paired with Kari Wahlgren, who is such an incredible actor and such a kind human being. But to get to go on that experience with her and have these the directors and the production team be so loving and kind and walking us through this, but also we had a lot of really existential conversations, as they would want the player to be experiencing that. So they wanted all of that infused with our performances. So it was a really special experience working on that project.
Well, it was a special game. It was very special.
Yeah.
I mean,
I cannot get over, which I was a huge fan of the performances in the first game as well. And I was a huge fan of the franchise. So when I got to be a part of it, I was thrilled. But I mean, just the performances across the board from Laura and Troy and Shannon and Ashley, just amazing.
Would you have any interest in, isn't there like a live action TV show now with Pedro Pascal?
Oh yeah. Look, if somebody feels like there's a place for me, of course I would love to do that. I would love to join the Borderlands world. But I mean, I don't know if there's like a place for me as myself. That's what's interesting about voiceover is you might fit into the world vocally, but then when they look at how you appear and what you look like physically, they're like, I don't know if this fits into the world, if this is the right age, if this is the right demographic, if this is the right height. So there's a bunch of different pieces that all have to fit collectively. So, but yeah, I would love to get to do that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I like what you have to say there about, like your vocal might work, but then will you work? Like, D. Bradley Baker's an amazing voice actor, but imagine putting them in like a real life version of his characters. Or I know if there's any Star Wars fans listening, with Ashley Eckstein, she did this role as Ahsoka.
Absolutely.
And then they replaced her in The Mandalorian, where there's like a live action version. And like it made sense because Ashley Eckstein's like, I mean, like white as me and super small, and to paint her orange would be a lot of hassle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and while I know that it gets very frustrating for people when they say like, well, why can't this actor play this character in this context or in this medium or in this space? But it has to serve the story, and the production team has to remove their feelings. They can love the actor, they can love the performance, and that happens not just when you're taking a video game or an animated project and adapting it to live action or vice versa, but you can just be auditioning on camera for a project and for a screen test, and you can have two actors that separately you love and you think they're fantastic, and then you put them side by side and you say, very much like me and my husband, we would never get cast on camera together. He's 6'5" and I'm 5 foot even, so it's like we would not fit in the same frame. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's life. But on camera, there's a lot of other pieces that have to be considered to create the most cohesive way to tell a story, and the production team has to consider all of that. And sometimes that means making really tough choices and not getting to work with actors that you love and respect and you think they're great performers.
It's tough business. My God.
Yeah.
Seriously,
like you guys have so much tough skin. Like,
well, I don't actually have tough skin. I cry a lot while I'm recording, and when I don't get a job. My family has probably heard me more times than not, and I'm sure my dad and my mom are like, this is why we didn't want this for you. It's heartbreaking anytime somebody tells you no, because you have to love what you're doing, and that energy of being fully engaged and excited, all of that stuff has to be necessary for you to deliver a great performance. But also that's like going out on a date and having all these great expectations, and then them saying like, I just kind of see you as a friend, and it sucks. But that's the business. And there's a lot of people that say like, oh, I don't allow myself to cry, or I don't feel any sort of rejection from it. I'll definitely cry, and I'll grieve the project, and grieve the character that I won't get to play again. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to celebrate and enjoy the 5 minutes that I do get to play that character in an audition. And if that's all I have is those 5 minutes with that character, then I'm certainly going to enjoy it. If I get 5 more minutes with a callback, or if I get 6 months working on the project, that's all a gift. All I have is that one audition for sure.
And what would be one of the bigger roles that you got turned down for?
Oh my gosh, there are hundreds. I've auditioned for so many things that I can't even remember. But there's been so many times that I've auditioned for things, and they'll say, you're too short, you're too tall, you have the wrong hair color, whatever the case may be. There's been times where I had to turn down a project because I was working on another project and they couldn't make the schedule work, and that's really hard. And then there's been experiences where they've said, we really, really like you for this character, but the writer kind of wrote this for someone who's a friend of theirs or a girlfriend or boyfriend. And so like, we have to change things around, or we really want to get this other actor in and this is their kid. And so we're so sorry, but you did a really great job and we'd like to fit you in. So there's 1.5 million reasons why you wouldn't get a job. But then there's been experiences where I've had terrible auditions. Like when I worked on Bones, it was, I think, probably the worst audition of my life. I was super late because I had been caught behind a wreck. I was racing through the film studio lot, and they're very confusing. And I tripped and fell outside going up to the door. So I was bleeding. I'm like wearing a skirt and there's blood all over my leg. And I'm supposed to go in and do this super emotional scene. And I was so exhausted from being so stressed that I had no emotional anything. And the director was so kind. He was like, if you're not feeling it today, like you're not feeling it today. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling it today. And I ended up leaving, and I called my agent. I was like, that was the worst audition ever. And she's like, they said there was so much like pent up rage and frustration, and you were trying so hard to be perfect, which is the character. You got the job. And I was like, what? How is this possible? So you never know why you won't get the job. You could have the best audition ever, but then someone walks in and just has this energy and this vibe about them that is totally not something they're choosing. It's just that they're having the worst day ever. And the casting director is like, perfect. This is what we need from this character. We need this essence. And you just delivered the best audition of your life, but somebody else was in the right place, the right time, and they had the right essence for the role. So you can't control any of it.
That's exactly it. Like, that's pretty amazing though, that you booked it from, like, I guess what you could call it failure. Like you just couldn't do it.
Totally.
But they were like, you nailed it.
Yeah, it was so interesting because when I started talking to the director about it while we were on set, he said, you seem really nervous. And I said, yeah, because I can't do it. I didn't do what you needed me to do in the audition. And I'm really nervous that I'm not going to be able to do it on set. And he was like, this character feels like she has to be perfect all the time. And the stress of being perfect and the defeat of failure weighs on her so heavily. That's what we needed to feel from the scene. And we totally felt that from you. I was like, because that was my life. So we finally, once he said, just like, let go, get lost in the scene. And I remember I was so stressed when I literally gave up and just allowed myself to be present and frustrated and feel like I failed. That's when it all fell into place.
That's rough. But like, I'm glad you got there in the end.
It's very human. It's very, and that's ultimately what we want to do when we're acting is display humans at different points in our life. And sometimes that means when we're playing a character, we won't know that we have these things in common with the character until we are brave enough to look at parts of ourselves that we're not proud of. And then we realize, oh my gosh, I have to like shine the light on this part of my life that I'm ashamed of in order to let it go.
That's just it. Again, like you said, human.
Yeah.
I only bring it up because we've had some like pretty historic, turn downs on the show before. Like we had a guy who was almost Negan from The Walking Dead.
Wow.
We had a guy who was almost Tom Holland.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes in for the audition. Yeah. There's 10 guys left. After thousands applying, and they're just sit there chilling, waiting for it. Tom Holland goes up and he talks to the people there at the desk or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we'd love to see that, Tom. And he goes, does a backflip and then starts the scene. One guy just walked out of the room. He left. He didn't even do his audition.
Oh man!
Could you imagine that? Imagine going for a gig and voice acting gig, or even someone like that to just do something crazy like that. That's rough.
It's crazy, but I mean, and then at the same time, there's been moments where there's been a role that I really, really wanted, and you see the success that other people have gotten from that, and then it's very easy to go, oh, I wish that were me. But I've told my husband, I've told friends so many times, if they wanted that person, I would have not wanted the job, because I can't be them. Only that actor can play the role the way they can. And I would not want to be on a series or a film where the entire time I'm giving my all and it's not what they want. It's not what their ideal. You would just feel like you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't want you there, or is always dreaming of somebody else, and you can't feel safe to create when you're not the right fit. So as much as it would be amazing to have gotten some of the roles that I auditioned for that they passed on or I got turned down for, would it have been as successful if it were me instead of the person who fit perfectly in that cast? Who knows? But it's still challenging to sit there and watch. And if you auditioned for Spider-Man and you're like, oh, man, Tom Holland, look at him now. Isn't that something?
Yeah. That guy didn't even watch those films. He was a big Spider-Man fan, but he's like, I cannot physically watch a Tom Holland Spider-Man. I hate the guy.
Oh man, I mean that's sometimes the case. Like when you get so close for a project, and there was one that I got the job. They called me and they said, you got the job, and then 15 minutes later they're like, we're so sorry, we don't know what happened. The producer made a different decision and hired this person, but they had decided on you. And when I went to do another role on the show, the wardrobe department were like, oh my gosh, you were the girl. We had your headshot. We had your sizes. And this other actor walked in and we hadn't been informed that there was a change. So in situations like that, when you're so close, it can be really, really devastating to have to watch the show and know that you were that close, or to watch the movie and know that you were that close and it wasn't you. And for a while, there's been a couple things that I'm like, can't bring myself to watch that, but I have watched all of it now. And I've tried to look at it from a different gaze of from a producer standpoint or a director standpoint, and putting myself in there and saying like, why wouldn't I have been a fit? Why were they a fit? And sort of trying to depersonalize the rejection, I guess, and also enjoy the project, because I was so excited about the script and so excited about the story. And by not watching it, I'm kind of digging the knife deeper into my chest, being like, no, now you don't get to enjoy it. You don't get to watch it. You didn't get the job. But yeah, it's different for everybody. And it's different for each project, how you have to cope with the grief and the sadness of not getting it.
I appreciate that you didn't name drop any of them.
Oh no.
I mean, that's good in its own way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that way everybody can imagine what it was. Yeah. But also, yeah, I don't want any director, producer, or actor to feel bad, because I'm sure I've been on the side that got the job for roles that other people wanted. And they know that it's nothing malicious. I know it was nothing malicious on their end. And we're all just people that are excited to work and love what we do. And that means tensions and emotions are high. We're emotional people. We literally play with emotions for a living. So you can't be mad when people get hurt feelings when we're always feeling so deeply.
Damn.
It's deep.
That was actually, that last little bit, that was pretty deep. You're really, really nailing it here. What was I going to say? Thomas, do you have anything to say me on?
Have you played Cyberpunk? Like, have you played the game?
I have played the game. I have not finished the game. I am not, I'm not the best player for first-person shooter games. I'm still slowly trying to elevate my skill level, but I have so much fun. My husband was laughing at me very supportively as I was playing the game. In the beginning, he said I sounded like a drunk person, because he's like, if you just walk into the room, all you hear is eyes up, no, eyes up, up, nope, that's a wall, okay, just a couple steps. Oh, who's that? And he also got frustrated with me because every time I would meet people on the street, I would talk to them because I remembered recording with all of these people. So I wanted to hear what they would say. So anytime I encountered someone, I would talk to them. And if they asked for money, I would try to give them money. And he's like, you don't have any money. You've given money to everyone. You need to stop giving people money. You're not going to have any money to buy. So to buy anything. So I probably don't play the game the way anybody else would want V to play the game. But I thought it was fun. I had a very unique Cyberpunk experience. And I started the first path that I chose was Street Kid because my brother was playing Nomad and one of my best friends was playing the Corpo path. But as I was watching their streams as they were playing it, I want to do all of them. So I'll have to get through this one eventually and then start a new path and then start the final path so I can do all three.
There you go. I don't know. There's a market kind of going on at the moment, and it's pretty damn niche, and it's voice actors playing their characters in games.
I don't think anybody would want me to do that. They say that
I think it'd be pretty funny. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. I just, especially for V, there's a lot of things that V says that I would never say. And then there's a couple of times that we said things at the same time, but it was very funny as we were playing. I was like, why is she being so mean? Just take the gun out of somebody's face. We just met him. Like we can't. And he was like, why are you saying she? That's you. So it was interesting that I totally did not see myself as V, but sometimes we would react and say the same things at the same time.
It kind of reminds me of, and I hope my girlfriend doesn't mind me sharing this. The first time she played GTA, she felt really bad for like passing red lights. She like obeyed all the traffic laws.
That's the worst game to care about the law.
And like if she was walking down the street and somebody got scared of her, she'd run after them, apologizing frantically.
I was sitting by with one of my friends who was playing, and they kept trying to find the cards when you're trying to go on the mission to find the cards. And she was like, it says it's over here. And so she just parks her car in the middle of the street and gets out and runs over, and traffic is building up behind the car and they're honking and they're screaming at her. She's like, why is there so much noise? I'm trying to find the car. Don't they understand? And I was like, well, you didn't park your car in a designated parking space. And she's like, I need you to talk to them and tell them we need designated parking spaces close to the objective. And I was like, well, there are, but you didn't find it. You just dropped your car in the middle of the road, and then you're mad that people are upset that you're blocking traffic. But she was very upset.
I tried to explain to her, like, if you think, running through a red light is bad in GTA, like the shit people do in that game is disgusting.
Yeah. That was actually when I worked on Borderlands and I had auditioned for Gage, that was the direction that they gave me to let me know. I was like, so what kind of character is this? What kind of voice do you want? And they said, well, we kind of want the type of personality of a person who would pick up her older brother's copy of GTA and would run over a person and would feel equally bad about it, but also think it was kind of cool. Like, that's Gage. And I was like, oh, perfect. So anytime I think of anybody playing GTA, it reminds me of Gage.
And you got to play Gage in Borderlands 2 and 3?
Borderlands 2 and 3, yeah.
What was it like entering that world? Because it's a crazy one.
It's so much fun. That was, I think, Borderlands 2 was my first, I guess, really big title video game. And I, again, spent the whole time when I'm seeing billboards for the game coming out, I spent that entire process being like, I'm not going to be the final choice for this. And so I would check in with Chris Sabat, who that's the studio that we recorded Borderlands 2 at. And I was like, is it still me? You could tell me if it's not me. You could tell me if I got fired, but is it still me? And he said, yes, it's still you. Just It'll be fine.
And you got that phone call every day for 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, it's still you. It's fine. But yeah, and then getting to come back years later to voice Gage for the DLC for 3 was incredible. And they didn't know, the production team at Gearbox did not know this, and I told them later. When I got cast as Gage and we did Borderlands 2, I was back in Dallas for recording, and it timed out with my friend who was getting married. So I would record the game during the day and then go do all of the bridesmaid duties at night. So there were a couple times that I showed up to the wedding festivities, and I would say things like, let's shut this wedding down, and like got really aggressive because I had been Gage all day. And the wedding planner was not a fan of me at all. And so then when we got to do Borderlands 3 and Gage is the wedding planner, it was a wonderful full circle moment for me, getting to bring that experience into the game, which was really cool.
I love to hear it. I love people get to come back and play a character after.
Yeah.
I'm like a lot of fans, I kind of hate seeing someone get recast, especially if they did a really good job.
Sure.
But like, I'm not the kind who's going to be like, I can't believe they got rid of my favorite character. when, banging the keyboard. Yeah,
because sometimes it's not a malicious or personal choice. It's that, you know, the actor is working on another project, and they have to get the game done in this time. They've already got the release date. They just can't make it work. And sometimes it's just that the actor doesn't feel like at this time in their life they want to take that on. I mean, of course, sometimes it is like the energies of the two people. It's just not going to be a cohesive working relationship. But sometimes for the production team, they're like, this character's kind of run its path. Like, we're not going to bring them back just for the character to tell a story that nobody cares about, and for the fans to then say, I loved this character and now I hate them because they brought them back and they ran their story into like, I always say, like, I got to trust the developers. I've got to trust the production team because they're the only ones who can see the big picture. I just have this tiny, tiny little piece. And while it might be hard to not get to see somebody or to not get to come back, ultimately they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And have you ever experienced that kind of stuff? Because you've done a lot of gigs. You ever experienced people unhappy with how you portrayed a character, or even go to you directly about it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is one of the things that I think is great about social media is that you can connect with people. But some of the things that I don't love about social media is people will let you know how much they hate you and hate what you did. And they'll be really passionate about the game and really passionate about the characters. They love the franchises. But because they love them so much, they are very passionate about expressing that they hate you and they would like you to die because you ruined their franchise, which can be scary if people are really detailed and really graphic about how much they hate you. But at the same time, you can't necessarily take all of that stuff to heart, because if I did, it would be like really, really devastating. And there are lovely people online that have said, like, thank you so much for playing this character. We love this character. And I've also had to learn that as people grow and change, they might have loved a character at one time, and then 5 or 6 years pass, and then they're like, why did you do this? I hate this character. But at the time, 5 years ago, when it premiered or when they played the game, they loved it. But as they've grown and changed, they have different feelings towards the character because of their own personal experiences. So ultimately, what I love about being an actor is that I can step into another character's shoes and learn more about myself, learn more about the human experience that I may not experience as Cherami, and I can connect with other people and have experienced more empathy and compassion, and hopefully cause other people to feel that as well. Find empathy and compassion towards someone that they may not have given that sort of level of care to prior to playing the game, prior to experiencing the storyline. But at the same time, if the goal is to make people feel, and they just hate you so much, they're feeling, so I guess we win. I don't know. That was the goal achieved. I don't know. It's tough.
One of my favorite things is a quote from Mike Tyson. It's about social media, and he goes that social media has made everyone way too comfortable without disrespecting other people without being punched in the face for it. And the thing is that these people will say all they want behind what are they called? What are they called? Like social media warriors or keyboard
that's
warriors?
a different thing. That's a different thing.
Is it? But like, you know, they're way too comfortable about voicing their opinion without having any consequences for it. And so that's why I'm proposing putting their address and full name on all their tweets.
There you go. Thomas is on
so
something.
you can find them. Oh no. I think it because we've been told so much to not share how we really feel and to not express our feelings and to keep things in, that when you're given the opportunity to express your feelings and you think like, oh, nobody's paying attention. I don't think anybody's listening. Nobody can hear me. It just feels like an open void. It feels like a really safe space to express yourself. But I was joking with my husband because we were watching a movie called Powder, which I guess came out in the 90s. And the character, it can feel the pain of anybody else who is feeling pain. He just has to touch them and he feels exactly what they're feeling. And I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if whatever you typed on social media, whoever your message was targeted at, you had to feel exactly what they felt when they received your message. And then maybe if you were the recipient of the emotional impact of your words, you may think twice about saying some of the things that you say. I don't know. Maybe you'd be like, no, that's fine. I want them to feel that way.
I'm gonna ask them to put that in the next Twitter update. That sounds like a really good idea.
I'm sure sounds like a Black Mirror thing.
Maybe WandaVision. Wanda could make that happen. Marvel could get involved. Wanda could do that. Hopefully, maybe.
You a WandaVision fan?
Oh, I love the show.
Well, we had Herb on. Remember him?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a huge Agatha fan as well.
That's such a good show. It's so innovative, especially for like.
It's so innovative.
In terms of the Marvel TV shows, like beforehand we had the Netflix ones, they were like, okay.
Yeah.
But this one was like, it could have been its own movie, but it was so good, it was even longer. Like
I
nailed
agree.
It.
I loved it, and I loved, oh my gosh, I think it was one of the back 2 or 3 episodes where Wanda really kind of gets to delve into really heavy moments in her life that helped make her who she is, and have to confront those moments. And I thought that was such an incredible episode.
I think every episode was incredible.
Oh, agreed.
Oh, it was just amazing.
It all had its own stylistic tone and vibe, and it was great. I loved it.
It felt like you were watching a film, and
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure it cost more to make than Endgame. Like, special effects were amazing.
I don't know. I don't think the budget on any Marvel project is cheap. I don't know what would be the most expensive, but I think they've got a pretty hefty budget for everything.
Yeah, even with like, because Disney bought Star Wars as well. Every episode of The Mandalorian was costing between $2 to $6 million.
Yeah,
every episode.
Yeah,
like there's people who save for their whole lives to get maybe a couple grand together to make it their first short film.
Exactly. It is, I mean, magnificent. I mean, the quality of what they're able to turn out is brilliant. But yeah, when you put the dollars behind it, it is, it'll make your jaw drop for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they've kind of nailed it. You ever had the pleasure of working with Disney? Like with any of their stuff, like Marvel or Star Wars?
I haven't gotten to work on any Marvel projects. A huge fan of Marvel, but actually one of my first jobs when I was 8 years old was working for Radio Disney, and I did all of the promos and things for the station. And as I grew up, I had my own show from 8 to midnight on the weekends. I ran the board, I took the calls and edited and all that stuff. And then for a couple of years, I wrote for them. So I when people say they grew up on Disney, I literally grew up on Radio Disney. I worked with them for over 20 years, and it was an incredible education. And I always will tell people that's my Radio Disney family, because they are my family. They taught me so much and gave me so many opportunities and were so kind. So I've had little experiences working with other pockets of Disney, but most of my Disney experience has been through Radio Disney. But yeah, it's all under the Disney umbrella, and it was magical working with them for sure.
That's pretty damn cool. In fairness,
Thank you.
I mean, you're living the life there. That's some good stuff.
It was really really fun, and it did not hurt to get to like promote when they would do interviews for Marvel projects, and I got to go to a couple like press screenings because I would have to see the movie so I could write promos about them. So that was pretty cool to get to see some of the projects that would come out, be it like a Disney movie, Pixar movie, or I think I got to see a Marvel movie a couple days in advance, to be able to write stuff about them and pick up the lines that I wanted to integrate into the scripts, which was really cool.
That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Especially you got to see them early.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it
a
would
gig
be
to
like
look
a
up.
day early, but early is early. They wouldn't let us see it too far in advance, probably because they were like, these people aren't going to be able to keep a secret. They knew me too well. I would not have been able to keep that a secret.
Unfortunately, when you're in kind of any kind of media that's talking about, film, whatever,
Yeah,
you kind of got to give away everything. You got to make clickbaity stuff too.
sure.
It, it's how you make a living.
Yeah.
Like, after doing this a while, you kind of see the way journalists have to carry on. I'm sure you've seen it when you played V in Cyberpunk. There's probably a lot of stuff written about you.
I think so. I mean, I've seen a couple of things when people will send them to me. I try not to seek things out and like look at reviews and things like that because I've experienced people being not a fan of things that you do. And so I've had people send things to me and be like, hey, they wrote this. It's really, really kind. You should read this. Or luckily I'll have directors that will read it and go, this is a valid note, and they'll send that over. So I have other people that will point out like, this was a valid point that they made, or, this was a really kind thing that they said. And then of course, people like my brother will be like, this guy said this horrible thing about you. Isn't this ridiculous? I'm going to take him down. I'm like, please don't. It's fine. He's just doing his job.
Yeah.
Like I said, name and address every single tweet. People would stop all the nonsense online.
All the nonsense would be gone. You don't need to be saying nice things.
Out of it. You wouldn't have any fuck you ruined, Cyberpunk or it all be gone. Seriously.
Yeah, but that's a topic for another day. That's just I would be terrified of that.
We'll get Twitter 2.0 up and running later on this year.
Yes, sure.
The
Good man.
update.
Yeah.
The Wanda Agatha Twitter update.
Yes.
I'm waiting.
On the way.
Yeah.
Where we're all living in the hex, and anybody who says different gets the whole Wanda 1-2. You know what I mean?
I mean,
The Wanda
wouldn't that
1-2.
be horrifying?
Yeah, that was just a weird show, especially like how it dealt with grief. There's this thing that Vision said, and it became controversial. Like, what was it? What is grief but love? What was it?
I know what you're talking about.
One of his last lines.
Yeah, what is grief but love? Persevering or something like that.
That's
Yeah.
And that people blew up about that because they were like, I don't know. People have to complain.
Well, I look at that and I go, well, it did what it was supposed to do. It made people feel. It made people confront what their grief feels like for them. And I guess the unfortunate thing about the world that we live in is everybody has had so many different experiences that not. Every truth has an exception for someone in there. So you could say, this is true for everybody, and then one person's like, not for me, and here's why, and that's also valid and true. So it's tricky. It's tricky. You want to make sure that everybody feels like they're being seen and their experience is being validated and accepted and acknowledged. But there's just no way to do that if not everybody has the opportunity to share and speak up.
Absolutely. But just to go back on the acting note, because you are an actor. Pretty good, yeah. pretty damn good one too.
Well, thank you.
You've done a lot of gigs. Which do you prefer doing? Like, behind the camera acting? I still, so many actors I've had on, I have no idea how to phrase that. I've said real acting. I've said, there's voice acting, there's theater, and then there's in front of the camera. How do you phrase that better? But what has been your favorite of those three?
Uh, for me, it kind of feels like if you're a dancer, you're like, well, one is ballet, one's tap, one's jazz. I'm a dancer. I love doing all of it. I'm an actor. I love doing all of it. I have found that when I'm working on a film or I'm working on a TV show and I'm on camera every day, I start feeling really nostalgic for getting back in the booth and I want to do voiceover. And then when I'm doing a ton of voiceover, I'm like, man, I would do anything to get in front of the camera, put on a costume, go on a set, like get to experience that. And it's been a while since I've done theater, and there's something magical about being live on a stage with your cast, and inevitably something goes wrong. And when something goes wrong, that's usually when the most magical thing happens, because everybody has to band together and say, like, how do we save this? How does the show still go on? All we have is each other, and we've got to find a way to problem solve as a team. So there are definitely, I think, benefits and pros to each. And I love doing all of them. And it's like working different muscles. So when I'm working on one aspect and not the others, I miss the others so much. And then I have to figure out a way to do that as well.
That's a good way to put it, in fairness. Yeah, I imagine that would be the case. If you were just talking to a microphone all day, you'd want to go out and get something done.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. But does mocap come into that at all? Like, are you happy with the voice acting if you do a bit of mocap, or?
Yeah, I love doing mocap. I've probably done that the least of everything. For me, mocap feels like doing a little bit of everything all at once, because you've got a camera in front of your face, so you have to be aware of angles and how it's catching how it's catching your face, and are you making facial expressions that are way too big, because you don't have to worry about that for voiceover. But you're in a soundstage, which also feels like a black box theater without a set. So usually they've taped out things like they would for theater. These are your steps. These are all these things. So that feels very much like theater. And then you're doing the VO work because there's a microphone in front of you. So you have to be aware of where the mic is, and are you doing the character voice, and what is your face doing? So it is kind of like the amalgamation of all of the things together. And you've got to be using your imagination, keeping the blocking. If you've done any sort of physical or dance training, stunt training, they'll give you, of course, like a giant pipe, and you're like, this is my giant sword, and now I have all this choreography with nothing. So it feels a lot like playing in the backyard with a bunch of friends, in throwing in some really expensive equipment that you don't want to break. So that's very fun as well.
Ever see anyone break any yourself?
I haven't. I did recently, while I was trying to put the rig together. There is a little tiny screw that helps adjust the focus of the camera, and it is ever so small. And if you twist a little bit too much, it will come out. And that's the closest I have to breaking anything, was the screw popped out, and then we had to like focus really to get the screw back in and to tighten everything in focus. But thankfully, no, I have not destroyed anything. I haven't dropped anything. Usually that's why they say actors don't adjust the mic, don't touch the equipment. But with this, of course, last year and a half with the pandemic, they suddenly said, actors, we need you to touch things and we need you to not break them. So it's been a definite learning experience.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of the last year, or it's a bit more than a year now at this point.
Yeah, sadly. Absolutely. I guess we're going on like a year and a half.
It's crazy. Oh, it's been a headache. But when it came to Cyberpunk, just to finish on that note,
yeah,
did COVID come into it at all? Is that why there was no mocap, or were the lines done beforehand?
I think the COVID sort of impacted a little bit of the schedule. We got most of the primary recording done. I want to say by February we were done, like early February, and then we had a couple sessions of pickups. They made a couple of changes here and there, and so we had to adjust for that. So I think I did a few sessions in May, but most of our primary recording was done ahead of that. As far as like, did it affect mocap? I am not sure, because I don't think I was ever supposed to be doing any mocap for V. I think all of that was being done, I want to say in Poland, but I could be incorrect. It might have been elsewhere. I know they did obviously some mocap for Keanu, but I did not do any, and I don't think that COVID impacted that. It would have been great to get to do mocap for Cyberpunk, and I would love to get to do more mocap in the future. But I really would love to do mocap, like not in an isolated experience, which is what I kind of had to do here. I had people that would drop off rigs, and I'd be put on like a Zoom screen, and we would do all the recording and all the mocap, but I would be at home and isolated. And that was really challenging. It felt really awkward. It was a lot of what we were doing for voiceover, but for voiceover, we're isolated in a booth anyway. It felt less strange. But anytime I've done motion capture, there've been other actors there, and the team has been there, and you can sort of interact, and it feels like you're on more of a set rather than a studio session trapped in the padded room. So I would love to get back doing that, getting to interact in person, which I think we're moving in that direction.
And yeah, well, it depends where you are. So are you in California kind of area?
Yeah, in LA.
Okay.
Lovely.
You're not going to see out of lockdown for a while.
I know.
And we've been in Europe's strictest lockdown. I think we'll be out of it before you guys.
Wow.
Yeah. We've had the most lockdown days of any European country.
Oh my gosh.
It's been hell here. I've been living
it drives you crazy. You start podcasts,
I mean, I think more than I've enjoyed everybody starting the creative projects, podcasts, and things like that. But I think what's been the hardest part is I feel like I'm very introverted, but I have missed people so much and just felt such a disconnect. And it makes you feel, it messes with your head. You start getting like really, really depressed. And then you start realizing if you don't go outside for too many days, something happens to your body. You're just sad. It's amazing. And so I've been reading all of these things and listening to podcasts, listening to lectures, watching videos, and they say we humans are creatures that thrive in community. And so much of our society is all about separate and competition, and that's not who we are as human beings. And so I think something that, if there's any good that can come out of COVID, it's realizing how much we really need each other and love and care about other people, and how much we really do foster that connection and care about that connection. And I know I'm going to be far more diligent about reminding myself of how grateful I am when I'm able to connect with people again and see them in person and give them a hug, because I know what it feels like to not. And I hadn't known that before this past year and a half, year and counting.
Yeah. I mean, that's about as true as can be. You've nailed it on the head in that one. You know, like we got to be around each other. It's really weird when we're not, but we're getting there. Thank God. Both my parents got their vaccine. Thomas, you've had yours.
Right.
It's been great because whenever I see Thomas, I get the 5G off me. It's brilliant. I love saying that, but when someone takes that seriously one day,
I know.
Yeah. But anyway,
great.
All that aside, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure having you on today. Great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, how could we not? In fairness, if people want to check you out, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram at CLKstar, on Twitter at Cherami Leigh, and I just got a TikTok because so many of my friends said, you have to do it. You really have to do it. And they kept pressuring me. So I have a TikTok now. It's Cherami_Leigh.
It's a place to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still very new. I'm very new to TikTok.
Listen, I did the WAP and I got 100,000 views on it. So
stop.
Like, amazing.
I know, right? You could piss on the ground and you'd become famous on TikTok. You know, it's the place to be right now.
I did see a woman had a couple million followers, and she was refilling and filling back up her kitchen and replacing all of the things that she had run out of. And millions of people were like, this is what I need to watch. And then I found that because of that, there's like a channel where you can watch people clean. Like you will be able to watch other people clean. And then I guess by default, like vicariously, you go, okay, my house is clean. I watched someone else clean their house. It's not how it works, but I guess that's what that does for people.
You could piss on the floor and become viral overnight. It is.
Seriously, don't.
Trust me, TikTok is the place to be.
That's hilarious.
We got on it for less than a month, and we had one video go like pretty well. We had Bruce Buffer on from the UFC, and we had more views on TikTok than we had on YouTube. We did a year of YouTube, and then in less than a month on TikTok, we outdid ourselves.
Wow.
It was so heartbreaking.
You're like, all of this work for nothing.
Oh, it was pretty depressing, yes.
It was like,
sitting at bed at 3 o'clock in the morning wondering, what am I doing wrong? You know?
Yeah.
And then crying till 6 a.m., then back making podcasts at 7 a.m.
Yeah. But anyway, leave that to us. We're going to call it quits. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
If you got this far in the podcast, fair play to you. Take it handy. Bye-bye and good luck.